Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Proper Varian, and today we're going to be jumping into more information related to the upcoming DLC Tours and Tournaments in Crusader Kings III, which is a pretty exciting thing to say because we haven't done that in quite some time. You know, there just wasn't any new information to dissect. Now that being said, what you can see right here is the primary target of this video, because in the last video yesterday I said we're definitely going to talk about this, but we're just going to finish off the rest of the dev diary, and then I never went back to this. Only one person in the entire comment section, from what I can tell, actually caught that. I didn't catch it. And thank you for that, because now we can actually go through it, because there is a whole lot of information right here. However, before we do this, there is a couple of other, smaller things that I just want to bring up so that you are aware of them. First of all, this right here is a comment made by Wokek on the forums. Chill, folks. It won't be nearly as late as some of you all seem to fear. Release date announcement will come soon, I'm sure, and soon too, dev diaries. We're pretty hyped to show off what we've been working on. So I would assume that we're talking about 6 to 7 weeks from now. So I think April, May is in the cards. I don't think June is in the cards. I think that is too late. I don't think that is where they want to be themselves, because they just want to do dev diaries until the week that the actual release date of the DLC is, right? So we're looking at maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks, something like this. At least that is my understanding of it, just so you're aware. They did say late spring. What exactly that means, we will find out fairly soon, I'm sure. Next week, the dev diaries will start, and I expect maybe at the end of March, the actual release date announcement. But again, this is still out, so let's just see where it is, just for your perusal. Then this right here, another comment by Wokag. Oh my, now that is a lovely phrase to see in the wild. Nice ring to it and all. If only I could remember where I'd recently seen a set of scales icon. Well, what they're talking about here is the term balance of power. Balance of power was brought up by a different forum user, and then we have Wokag really entering this, and Wokag, I can tell you, is behind much of the design of the Regencies mechanic. Now, I was talking about this in my Discord. I said, hey, I'm honestly not too excited for Regencies. I'm not against them at all, but they were kind of boring and just kind of a slog in CK2, so you must make them really interesting to make me care for them. And Wokek said, I hope that we can get this done. Now, what we know is that there is no massive revamps to laws or anything coming in this, but this right here appears to be what we can call a balance of power mechanic. This balance of power mechanic is definitely related to Regencies, but since regions, eventually, if they do their job very well, which I assume really pushes the balance of power in their favor, right? Since they can take over the entire realm, I think this mechanic will go hand in hand, probably, with the general vassal opinion and relationships and domain management sort of a revamp that we will be seeing that has already been announced for the upcoming update, that this goes hand in hand. So I think the balance of power definitely has to do with this. What exactly, we will find out quite soon. Now, the last thing that is, coming before we actually dissect this screenshot right here is something related to this screenshot. When we took a look at this, I said that this is Vratislav doing something, that looks like a tournament. Somebody in the comments pointed out that, hey, wait a minute, it says with the subtitle of this image that this is actually Vratislav doing a tour. A tour is when you go through your realm, you talk to a couple of vassals, and that is that, right? Now, what is this symbol, though? This is Pilsen. This belongs to Bretislav, the son of Vratislav. And I found that quite interesting because, yes, okay, fair enough, very much, that Vratislav here is doing a tour, and yet, I mean, I'm just going to stick with it. I think this very much looks like an actual tournament. You got the tournament grounds right here. In the center, you have the actual sort of bout, right, where they joust, where they do one-on-one combat. You got the camp, and it is to the side of the town, which, again, is in the general tournament overview screen. So I asked the devs, I said, wait a minute, is it possible for a vassal, when their liege is visiting, to plan something? And the devs told me, we can't tell you about that yet. So, I'm gonna be honest with you. Had the answer been absolutely not, nothing can happen, then it would have been very clear, very easy to answer, but instead it's like, the details are a bit nebulous for the moment. So what I think this ultimately means is quite simple. When your liege says, I'm doing a tour, you as a vassal have the option to react to this. You can do this positively or you can do this negatively. We already know that we are in a situation where as the liege you have a general intent for your tour, but then you are also in a position where you can set individual approaches to vassals. What do you want from them? Do you want money? Do you want a better contract? Do you want to get a favor, an obligation? A hook. That's the actual CK3 term. And maybe you have this option as a vassal as well. I think this is ultimately really the only way to make this interesting rather than just a repetitive series of events. If this is the case, I'd be very excited, because that would mean that, well, I as a vassal can host a tournament. You as a liege can say, you know what, I'm not even attending. I'm not even gonna bother. And that, for me, is a really interesting angle that we can take and might have an influence there in how the vassal relationships work. I am, in general, and I believe I said this yesterday as well, I absolutely believe that vassal contracts in CK3 are a really great tool, but they absolutely suck at the moment. This is a general conclusion that I've drawn from just the last years when it comes to CK3, where this is a really nice thing, but you don't think about vassal contracts until there's one of these super niche situations where you actually want to use them, or you want to roleplay really hard, even if it's unnecessary. And I think that should be more interesting. These are living traditions, and I think the way I approach a vassal and the way a vassal approaches me in a tour is incredibly important. So, I really hope that this does indeed go into this direction, but we will be learning more as we go on. Alright folks, and now I want to analyze what is actually going on here in this screenshot, because this has so much information. It's a crazy amount of information, quite frankly, and I want to dissect it with one thing in mind. What I want from this mechanic, be it the travel mechanic or the activity or the grand activity mechanic, is something that is good as it is implemented. Listen, I think it's completely valid to say, you know, this mechanic will make, for example, pilgrimages or pilgrimage trails or coronations or whatever else there might be really interesting eventually. But we're 2.5 years into CK3 post-release, right? I need stuff where I just go, holy moly, this might blow me away the way it is right now. And I gotta tell you, after looking through this, after looking over this, and trying to understand what is happening here without actually having laid hands on this myself, I am pretty positive about this. Let's talk about what we can see here. This right here, we're planning the grand wedding activity, and the subtype of this grand wedding is a bloody wedding, which means that we will attempt to murder the entire other house, right? We're planning this activity, and we're starting here as the Duke of Munster, which is the classic main character, and we are the ones actually getting married. This is our spouse. I have no idea who this spouse actually is. Like, I'm not sure where they're coming from, but that doesn't really matter ultimately, at least I don't think so. You can see that we're traveling, and we're traveling through this terrain. This is not our terrain. This right here is not ours. Only this area is our realm. We're traveling through this, around the hills, then into this, which is our barony. This is our county here, and this is the barony of Ross Cray. You can see this right here. And then we continue traveling, have a small sort of possible interaction in this bishopric, which is our realm, but not our county, and then we're going back home. Now, this is what this general travel is like. There are a couple of things that we can immediately notice, and that is, A, that we are going outside of our realm. So that means we're doing something that isn't related to going outside of our realms per se, but we're doing this by going outside the realm. Now, you can also see that there is actually a small circle here. And you know what? I did not notice that small circle before. Let me just zoom in on this, right? This right here is empty terrain. There is nothing in this barony. These hills right here, empty terrain. This right here, empty terrain, empty terrain. We also have empty terrain up here. Keep this in mind because it's color-coded in the other screen. And we got empty terrain with these hills and this forest. Now, we do know that a grand wedding can be utilized to curry favor with foreign lords in the hope of vassalizing them. So that makes sense, or might make sense, why we can definitely go outside of our realm on the occasion of the grand wedding activity. The other thing that we definitely need to take note of is the color coding on the map. You can see this terrain is marked as hills, this terrain is marked as hills, this terrain is marked as a forest. Then all of this is wetlands, and all of this is wetlands as well. However, all of these areas right here are also wetlands, yet they're not marked. Why? I would argue that is because there is a very clear distinction when traveling between civilized lands and non-civilized lands, where I mostly mean settled versus unsettled. These areas right here, the hills, the wetlands, and so on, none of them have any type of holding in them. They are empty baronies. It appears to me that there are two types of threats that fundamentally can occur to you when you are traveling. That is A, you can see it right here. Well, okay, so there are 3 danger levels, but 2 different types. The danger levels appear to be extreme, maybe high, and maybe low danger, right? We got 3 low danger and one high danger. These 3 low dangers stem from just the wilderness. These are literally just wetlands, and if I'm going here, I actually didn't check this, but let's just double check, look at that. The wetland county effect, this is the icon. So the danger from traveling through, for example, the barony of Kincora or the barony of Athenry is that this is just empty land. This is wilderness. There might be animals there, you might run out of food, you might run out of water, you might lose track of time, track of where you are, and so on. The risk that emerges here, which appears to be a higher risk because it is a bigger symbol and, you know, that makes sense with the numbers right here. This risk is occurring not in empty land. This is a bishopric. I assume this is man-made error. These are man-made horrors, right? So, for example, bandits or a lord that wants to tax you extra. Maybe somebody that has a different religion and says you shouldn't come through my land when you do a pilgrimage. There are many potential reasons for this. And I think this is the base understanding, right? When it's white, so just like this is land that isn't per se threatening. So for example, this up here, you see this as well. This is empty land, but it's plains. There's no inherent risk to going through plains. They're plains, right? But stuff like forests, wetlands, hills, mountains, and so on and so forth, they might be risks unless they are settled. So this is basically where I am. We take this route because I assume going through the hills is actually riskier than not going through the hills, right? Because otherwise you could just go boom over there. So this is something that I've noticed. We have natural, trouble, natural danger basically, and then we have man-made danger. I think, but I'm not sure about this, that the purple means that these are people attending the activity, right? We got other guests, 18. I assume this guy's attending, then all of these are attending. Nobody here is attending. I think, see, I was looking at this earlier, but you just can't be sure here. This is just a wild guess. I think the wife that we're marrying might be Hunit Bledin Mathrafal, which is definitely not how you pronounce this. And this means that the other people attending would be coming here from Wales, right? So that means, yeah, sure, this guy's attending, maybe he likes us. We're apparently getting married in Roscrea, which means these folks here will be traveling here, and we're traveling there on our own as well. So that is what I'm dissecting from that. What are our options there? We have trouble, we have danger that can come from nature, be it animals, be it getting lost, or be it just dangerous terrain, and we have a danger that appears to be coming from people. Right here, we have hired mercenary guards. Right here, we have hired forders. Now, I find this quite interesting as well, because this usually would mean exchange what is happening, right? The destination right now is Roscrea. I think this is basically where we're getting married. There's no marriage symbol here, which is why I'm kind of uncertain about this, but I think this is where we're getting married. I don't think, by the way, and I thought this initially, I don't think that this symbol is because here is where we do the marriage stuff and then kill everybody in the bloody wedding. No, I think this is danger because it says remaining dangers en route. But with that being said, I think we're getting married right here, and we have guards for population troubles, and we have forders for the wetlands troubles. Now, I'm not sure again what this means. Maybe we can change where our destination is. Maybe we're saying, okay, the wedding is actually somewhere else, because we're still planning this. So I think this is just the wedding location, and then we've customized our route. What really, really is important to me, but that I can't settle on, is what exactly customized route means. Can I customize, okay, generally avoid wetlands, generally take a boat if you can, right? Can I customize that? Or am I customizing, I want to go to this particular barony, I want to go to that particular barony, I want to go here with the purpose of, for example, talking to my vassal, yada yada yada, right? These are the questions that I have. How many options? Just what is actually going on here? I find it interesting. But what I will say right now is that I hope, when it comes to the dangers and the options and the influence that buildings have, because again, we know hosting a festivity in a leisure palace, or rather in a barony / county, I guess barony, that has a leisure palace, makes it so that you can get better effects from that festivity. I really hope that buildings are incredibly interwoven with this entire thing. Let me present this to you, for example, right? Maybe I can build something that, obviously, I can just put down a holding right here, and all of a sudden the danger from the wetlands would disappear because we have some sort of implied infrastructure, right? But maybe I can also build something that is just enhancing how fast I can travel. Maybe we can build something that enhances my safety. Maybe we can build something where if it's a port, for example, and I want to go to Jerusalem, it will be cheaper for me to take a ship from a county, or rather a barony with a port, than if I just go to Jerusalem from any given location, right? Will that be the case? I don't know. If I go into a situation or into a location, right, where many people are active, is there a chance for me, for example, to plan out a murder? Let's say I want to murder the bishop of this place right here, right? Is there a chance for me to say I want to do a murder, and once the murder bar is full, I can combine it with me actually going there? How does any of this work? These are big questions that I have, because I think this is what will decide whether this mechanic is one of the ones where you sit down and say, yeah, this will be really cool once they implement X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Or will this be a mechanic where you say, okay, this changes how I approach the plots, how I approach where exactly I go, how I build This changes the idea of infrastructure that I have, because I can already tell you, I got amazing ideas for X, Y, and Z in the future, but it's not satisfying, right? Because this needs to come out, I want to have fun, I want to have a good time. Think about what we can do with this in the future. If I have some sort of tool to trade, I make caravans. These caravans want to be in non-risky situations. We already have a caravan master here, but obviously this is not trade, this is us actually going somewhere, right? Let's say I make a caravan. I send out my caravan master, and obviously I want that caravan master to be as safe as possible. Now, I either have to hire mercenary guards, or I take a route that has been built up by the people living there to be safe, because then they can ask for toll money, and I don't need to pay for the mercenary guards, right? This way, natural trade routes could exist without needing to hardcode anything of like, oh yeah, this is how trade flows. No, it's just like, listen, right here is basically the Emperor's Street, for example, the Emperor's Road, because we built this up. The local count said, you know what, I want people to travel through here preferably, right? So I'm going to build up roads, I'm going to have more guards on duty, I'm going to go ahead and make sure, you know, that we have good relationships with our neighbors so that there isn't any war that would impede this. These things would be amazing going forward, but they're not going to be in here. See, the question that for me will settle whether this is something that I will be absolutely ecstatic about when it comes to playing it, or that I will be saying mostly, yeah, in the future this will be really great for X, Y, and Z, that feature, is basically, for example, if I improve my location, let's say I'm fairly close to, you know, the side of Santiago, right? So the holy site that people want to do pilgrimages to. If I improve my location, make it safe, it's all cool, will people preferably take my route? And if so, do I benefit from it? Can I build institutions, right? For example, a tavern. Will I meet these people? Will I get more interesting events from this? Or, for example, if I am in a port and I am the best port all around, it's the cheapest option, do people preferably come through me? And will I make money off of that? Will I meet interesting people, see interesting places, interesting artifacts, and so on, right? These are the questions that I have. There's very clearly a really cool connection to how urbanized, to how settled a region is. There's very clearly a really good connection between buildings and the activities and the options that come with them. Again, the indication coming from the leisure palace and feasts. The question is just, how far does it go? Because yes, this is all really cool for future content, in particular trade, which honestly just feels insanely good when we take a look at the screenshot right here, right? But where are we standing here when it comes to the current design? These are the questions that I have. These are the questions that I need settled from them, right, in the upcoming dev diaries. But I'm really excited for the prospect of everything that I just talked about. So let's see how they execute it. Now, the last couple of things that I just want to bring up here is, of course, the fact that this is a grand wedding and you can set an intent. In this case, this is meant to be a stress reduction sort of activity. This could be, I don't know, prestige, renown, right, making friends, vassals, and so on and so forth. Then we got the spouses right here and activity options that seem very, very reminiscent, actually, of the royal court options. This is entertainment, so music, right? This is food, and then this right here is lodging. Costs 200 in total, and then we pay 330 because I think this has to do with if this sums up, right? So she costs us 14 per month, maybe, and we expect to be underway for this and that much time, and that is how much it will cost us in total, or at least this is the first estimate. Now, this is a really cool screenshot. This is a really interesting thing. Again, the big highlight here is dangers generated just by terrain. Dangers generated by actual holdings, by situations in those counties, and baronies, of course. And again, I think that purple just means these people are actually attending in Ross Cray. Now, the weird thing about this is that there is no marriage icon here. I can't quite tell whether this is here where they are getting married or whether it's here, but I don't think so, right? But what we can see is we are going into foreign lands and there is an event bubble here despite this barony being empty. I assume maybe they are meeting the fellas that live right here. Who knows, right? Most important for me, however, is how much do buildings play into this, and how much, if people go through my land, do I get to interact with it? How much do I get to steer it? Because again, the potential is very clearly there, but how much is in there already? I'm really eager to find out more about this next week in the first dev diary about this content. Maybe we will learn about the balance of power first, about Regencies, right? But I'm very much looking forward to this. Let me know what you think, and I think I'll leave you right here. I'll see you later, alligator.